Hey everyone, my name is Jen Sparkman and I'm a writer, storyteller. Currently, I'm running an online magazine called The Articles of Antiquity. It's an online magazine where you actually interview people. So this is really fun to be on like the interviewee side of things because I'm so used to being the person that asks the question about arts and media, entertainment, music, film. I work with one staff writer who is part of our theater section editor, and if you ever want to join or be a part of it, I'm always looking for people. I get almost 1,000 people a month coming to the site from literally around the world. Whenever this airs, I'll have either shortly after or coming out my first collection of poems being published in a small press, so that's exciting. Yeah, that's kind of who I am.
From when I know you, from when we first met, you were in art school and you were aiming at a very different path.
So I went to Savannah College of Art and Design and I got a major in film and I minored in visual effects. I almost double majored and or switched my major around because I thought visual effects was way cooler than film anyway. It still is, so. I'm a geek. I love all that tech stuff. So in college, I worked a lot of films. I went on set, fell in love with post-production and editing. And then once I started taking all the visual effects classes, it was a really weird transition because I showed up at the time it was a club called 16 by 9. So all the film students would show up and everybody would present their projects. Oh, I need this X number of people for my crew. And at the time, everybody knew me as the person who does film and Jen does editing and whatever. And then all of a sudden I started raising my hand like, I could be your compositor, or like I could be your visual effects supervisor, or like I could do your visual effects. Pick me. And so that's what I did. So for the last like 2 years of college, I basically was on set working with green screens and making sure everybody had the correct measurements and working with my visual effects professors who became my mentors in really truly understanding what's going on. And for me in film school, I was like, I'm going to be a film director when I graduate. I'm going to tell stories. I want to be the most well-rounded person ever. So I can be on set and I can be in post-production and I can be the most understanding like director ever. So I understand all facets of the production, right? I'm sure you've come across people you've worked with, Josh, that like the client says something bonkers and you're like, if only they just understood, this is not easy. And you're like, what? All right, I guess I'm not sleeping tonight.
Oh man, I had one note where they asked me to matte paint moving water. And I'm like,
what? Yeah, no, that's you know what, I think it's feedback like that from clients that, oh God, I'm gonna turn my phone on silent. It's feedback from clients with that makes me love visual effects, because for me, visual effects was all about problem solving and how do you meet the needs of the dream by telling them the reality of what it is. So anyway, I get out of film school and I start my career in the most technical side of film I could ever imagine. It was a good learning experience because it really led me to get burned out, honestly. So the last 5 years I've been working in the film industry and learning a lot and you know, going back and forth whether I was working as an assistant editor or a coordinator or a producer, and I kept trying to search for that thing that wasn't going to, I don't know, make me like depressed or sad or you know. And I mean, as an artist, I've been doing this thing with Enneagram. I don't know if you have or not. I highly encourage anybody to do it. It's really enlightening, but I am a 4, and as 4s, we feel like we'll never measure up, or we'll never be good enough, or we're always going to be searching for this thing that fulfills us. And there's a danger in that, because if you idle your job, you idle your work, it becomes something that will never fulfill you. And I almost feel like I'm going to give counter advice here, that there's a lot of videos that say don't make a career of your passion, make a career that fulfills you and you feel like you give meaning and life to your work. And every single job I took in the film industry did not give me meaning or life. The thing I've always wanted to do is something completely opposite. And writing always gave me life because I always saw people and how they were impacted by the words. I was always confused how people were even affected by my words, but the fact that they like read it and they were like, I was touched, Jen, and I was just like, okay, clearly this is something I was supposed to do. But you know, when you're working to live instead of living to work, it's a very interesting balance that you have to have with yourself, because that's what I was doing out in LA, taking job after job after job just to afford my life, and not really taking it because it was something that I knew was going to be long term, because they never were long term. I always tried my best to stay there, but they always were like, oh, we gotta let you go. And I'm like, okay. So after, you know, getting let go from jobs 4 times in the last 5 years, and they weren't freelance positions, it kind of wears on you. So it kind of makes me think, what am I doing? How am I thriving? Why is this working? I need to change some things. So,
like you were saying, in the studio system, it is very unfulfilling, creatively, spiritually, aesthetically.
I feel like sometimes people in art school need to take like a psychology class about themselves and like what they really want to do, and the psychological needs that you have for yourself, and what really truly motivates you and drives you as a human. Because taking that assessment does a deep dive inside yourself to truly believe like what wakes you up in the morning, like what truly makes an impact, you know, like how are you affecting people. And I think computer screens sometimes puts a wall in front of the humanity of art. You know, you really have to be working on something you truly care about in order to really feel like you're making a difference. Like I just got so tired of working on in advertising and movie trailers and stuff like that, because I was like, who is this helping today? Not me or anybody else. I don't know. Like the art was beautiful. Like that's what was the thing that was like fulfilling to me, is like, well, at least this is really awesome art and I have delicious lunch today. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's more important for students to know what they want out of life than what they want out of a career.
Yes.
The one informs the other, right? But we only pursue one.
I'm at the bottom of figuring out what I want to do with my life, and I'm 28, and I'm having to reevaluate the last 8 years of like basically my whole 20s of like, what was I doing? Like, why did I pursue this? Like, what was really sifting through all the things and all the education that I've gotten, and figuring out which education was actually the most beneficial, and thus discovering that, working in arts is great, but being my own boss is better. Being a writer is something that is so your own thing, and it only becomes somebody else's thing after you've basically sold yourself to somebody else, saying, I will take this piece and I will sell your dream to other people so they can read your art. But like, so much so in the creative process, the writer is just this quiet personal thing that you got to do inside yourself. I literally have my note cards with me that I'm like gonna go write later after we get done talking. So
nice. You did the thing at SCAD we talked about. Then you also pursued your master's at one point, I believe. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. Do we want to talk about that? Just because it has nothing to do with film.
Oh, it doesn't have anything to do with film, but it has everything to do with your journey. We have a large contingency of viewers that are students right now, and I don't think all of them are going to end up in film.
At 18, I thought I was going to go to undergrad for English. I could have gone for free, actually, because from the state of Nevada, they had these scholarships at the time where they were giving out grants to students that met a 3.5 GPA, and I met that GPA. I walked away from a full ride to go to art school because I didn't think I was going to be a good enough teacher in English, because I didn't think I was a good enough writer, which is utterly ridiculous, because earlier that year, both years, for both senior and junior year, I won writing mentorships, and I won like in playwriting. Like I won awards as a high school student, both on the local and national level, for my writing. And like that wasn't enough to convince me that I was a good enough writer at all. So I thought, okay, clearly I'm just gonna go tell stories at art school because people accept me there. That's what I did. And I don't regret it. I met you in the process and a million other incredible life-giving people. I think I would have met a lot of really incredible people in undergrad if I went to a regular old school where art was not like the thing, And anyway, because of that journey, it led me on a journey to realizing, okay, well, I need to get better in my craft and my writing, because I spent 4 years in film school focusing on the technical side of things, and that's why I'm in a technical field, and which is fine. But like, if I was smart, I would have redone LA and would have applied to like all the writing assistant jobs and would have worked for pennies there when I could afford it, you know. But the farther you get into your career, the worse it is to turn around, start over in another facet of film as an assistant or as a whatever, because they look at your resume and they're like, you have mid-level experience. You're not going to accept what we're going to pay you, which is $15 an hour. Students, people, you're 22 and you get an assistant editor job and you get paid $15 an hour, you better walk away from it. I don't care where it is. You walk your butt away and say no thank you, because you are bringing everyone else down. I have had, from personal experience, I've had friends who have been like, I am working for this much. And I was like, how are you paying rent and everything else in your life? Is somebody giving you money? Because I get very, very angry when I hear about when my friends personally tell me, oh, this is how much I'm making. Because I don't ask them. They just kind of casually tell me. And I'm like, no, that's terrible. You are bringing everyone else down, and I'm going to make you feel bad about it. Like, honestly, like the fact that you can bow down and be like, this is okay, employer, please pay me this much, unacceptable.
Yeah.
I don't care where you are. I'm not going to name companies. I really could, but I'm not going to call them out because that would be a terrible thing.
Yeah, go to glassdoor.com.
Yeah, exactly. They're real.
Wiki any major studio payment hacks. Look up, like, do your research before you enter the industry, you know?
Anyway, so how did I get 2 degrees in writing? Well, one was in creative writing, which was an amazing thing. It was a low residency thing where actually my first mentor worked at Augsburg University. Shout out to MFA Creative Writing in Augsburg, Minnesota. All right, anyway, it's an online class, but you show up in Minneapolis for like 2 weeks in the summer and have class with your cohort, basically. And at the end of the 2 years, you come up with a finished product, but you also get to take an alternate semester where you learn something outside of your discipline. If I had to redo that, I would not have gone for screenwriting, because I thought still I was like, clearly I need to go learn how to be a better screenwriter. And really what I should have done, hindsight is 2020, honestly, I should have gone back for to learn how to be a fiction writer, because right now I'm currently writing fiction on the fly and with all the experience that I have, but I've never truly sat down and done master class in how to write a fiction novel. And so I'm playing catch up. I ended up writing a screenplay I'm not proud of. You can go to Augsburg's library and go find it if you want to read my terrible screenplay. It was a fantasy epic. It was crazy. And then I ended up writing a memoir. And that memoir is now a poetry memoir that I'm getting published in September. So and that was in a semester. I wrote something that ended up getting published. So find what you're really good at. But you're only going to find what you're really good at least in my opinion, by failing. And I have definitely failed a lot, and in figuring out what I am not good at. And I think every time you fail is another opportunity to show what you are good at. So anyway, then I keep working in the industry. I think, oh, well, now I can finally apply to teach at colleges because I have this MFA. And then I quickly realized that MFA creative writing programs will not take you unless you start publishing actual book-length things. And I did not know that. So I was like, all right, fine. So then another year goes by and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And then that little tiny voice in my head says, hey, remember when you thought you wanted to be a teacher? Well, you took a teaching semester to work with kids and you were actually good at it. And I was like, oh my gosh. It was the first time I realized that I could actually make a difference in a young person's life, because I could see how they were writing and how I was writing, and I could actually see the mistakes they were making and I could actually help them correct it. And it was the first time I realized that, oh my God, why didn't somebody just shake me when I was 18 to say, it's okay, Jen, you're gonna learn how to be a better writer and teacher if you just stuck with it. Then this led me to the journey of getting my second degree in just a master's in English. And I got that degree in 18 months online, powered through it. They were 7-week courses, Arizona State University. Do your research. And when applying to grad school, I made the mistake of thinking that, oh, it's just gonna be 10-week or whatever. No, I didn't know it was 7 weeks. And I had to maintain a B average, and it's a semester's worth of work in 7 weeks. Full-time job, most of the time, working and doing school full-time. And so now I have a master's in English, and I can finally now teach English courses in high school, middle school, and college. So that's the route I'm pursuing the rest of my life, is doing teaching and writing and stuff like that, and moving away from working at a studio or unless I'm going to work with my friend and they just happen to be at a studio and their projects at a studio, it's very hard for me to like pursue something that is in the industry. Like maybe it'll be in another industry where I'm doing film stuff, but it's not going to be working usually at, I might be shooting myself in the foot by saying this, but at least right now, you know, it's really hard for me to justify working at a film studio. I mean, I'm not even in LA anymore. And being in a city where it's known for its medical, it's like emergency services and science and technology, I feel like I'm very much like in the minority here. It really forces you to like figure out what you're really good at really fast, because I'm not in a place where I can just go get a job tomorrow, because I'm not in LA. And with my resume in LA, I could go get a job tomorrow in LA. Honestly, like it happens. Once you basically get a few jobs under your belt and you're not terrible at them, people will hire you, because that's how, like, you know these programs, I don't have to reteach you, and it's not going to take a month for you to figure it out. Great, we're going to hire you. Like, that's how it is in LA. So the encouraging thing is that if you like LA and you like the crazy and you like the traffic and the rent prices and the fact you'll never be able to afford a home unless you get real lucky, LA's for you. I felt that the longer I was at a job that was in a creative field, the more I felt like out of place.
I guess my question is, how do you know when you are fulfilled?
You wake up in the morning and instead of being 5 minutes late or almost late, you're there 30 minutes early and you're happy about being there early. It's different for everybody. When I was working at a studio where I was working on a project that truly made me excited, all the projects that I worked on that made me excited to be there were life-giving, and they were about real people and real stories. And, you know, they actually had like an emotional connection and an emotional need that, like, actually maybe at the end of a commercial, the person feels like, oh, I'm gonna go hug my dad now. Like, it made them feel something, you know, inside of them, instead of just being like, oh, I'm gonna go eat that chocolate now. That's, I guess, what I mean by fulfillment, that if you're doing something that you know is going to, I don't know, just like send out like positive vibes in the world. I'm an optimist. I know the word is new for you. I know it's not a word you think about often, but I see the world of like a half glass full or something, and it's really hard for me to do that if I get burnt out. It's the low end of being a creative person, which I know that you and I both relate to, is when you're down and you're depressed and you're like, just everything sucks. It's a bad place to be. I am constantly catching myself, because if I stay there for a very long time, it becomes a habit. And when that habit becomes, you know, your thoughts direct your actions and what you say. And like, words are powerful. So if you think in your head, well, I'm not good enough today, and you say that over a repeated amount of time, you will lose whatever mojo you had, and somebody's gonna have to snap it back out of you in order to be like, hey, this is, what are you talking about? You're great. And it's just like, why did I need your validation in order to tell, like, I should have that inside of me. But how I'm made and how most artists are made, they don't have that in them. Like, they don't. It's like the way you're born. Like, you can't change your chemical makeup of how you see the world. And a lot of artists, and I know I'm dancing around this subject, but because it's in the media every day, but like, it's not a surprise that people in the artistic field are more depressed and more, you know, have thoughts of, you know, hurting themselves and whatever, because it's something psychological that happens over a series of time. It's not something that happens just overnight, that somebody wants to do something bad or hurt themselves or whatever, because it's just, you could be the most, obviously in the media, you can be the most successful person. It doesn't get away from them. No. You know, those thoughts are, you got to hold your thoughts captive, because if you don't let your thoughts run away, especially in the art field, because it's such a difficult industry to be in. And sure, every work industry is difficult, but I really truly believe that because art is so opinionated, that you gotta hold your own, and you gotta really be okay with having a opposite opinion than everyone else. For young people, I think there's just so much pressure in kids in college where it's like, oh, you have to go to college and you have to know what you want to do at 18. And we live at a time in a life where young people aren't getting married at 18 anymore. Like, we're having this period of in their 20s where people are just like living their own life. And I mean, a lot of European countries and a lot of people in Europe, they take gap years. And I always never understood the whole gap year thing. But I think it's the smartest thing ever. The ability to like chill out, not think about school, and just like explore what they want to do. Our generation, especially our generation, who went to school blindly believing that college was the answer to everything. Our parents' generation believed that if only their kids would go to college, they would be secure and safe in the industry. But they didn't know that the technology was going to change so rapidly, where like we have a gig industry, we have a contract industry more so than we ever have ever at any other time. I think our generation is the most resourceful generation of any other generation, because we have to survive. And sure, we made mistakes going to college and expecting just a job that's well paying right out of school. But, you know, I think we need more entrepreneurs to build and innovate and create. And instead of taking $50K out for a year of school, take $50K out and pursue a business. I wish I actually would have gone back and just like, I would have gone to business school and just like understood how to run a business, because actually out of film school, I created an LLC of a production company, not realizing that I wouldn't have time to actually give it the love and care it needed, because I created a documentary out of school. It was 51 minutes and I was like, this is gonna go everywhere. And then I get done with it and I realize not all this sounds great. And it's why it's not getting into festivals, and I don't have money for festival fees, and I don't know how to raise money, and like, how do you go about doing all those things? And I think the biggest thing that I can offer up to somebody who's really wanting to pursue a field in the art is, don't be afraid to fail, even if it makes you broke for like a really long time. Because pursuing what you want to do is so much more gratifying. Like, if you come to be 75, and they've had research that people have gone and asked people in nursing homes, and they ask them, it's like, what are your regrets? And their answers are, well, I wish I would have done more. You know, I wish I would have pursued that dream of like going to like a country or whatever. Fear is real, and if you let fear guide your decisions in life, you'll never do the things you truly want to do. It takes courage to actually do the thing you want, because it's so scary, because no one's telling you you should. It's just you're doing it yourself. I'm scared every day. Like, the last few months have been like really eye-opening to really figuring out what I want to do and what I want to pursue, and what matters to me. But it's letting go of all the naysayers and just going for it. That's what I got. That's what I got for you all. I hope you enjoyed those bits of advice, I guess, from me.
Well, thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, totally, Josh.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, give us a like. If you didn't, don't.